latest on the suspect who tried to storm the White House Correspondents' Dinner with guns and knives. We're learning more about the number of shots fired, how the suspect was able to get through security, and a possible motive. Here's D.C. Bureau Chief Ben Kennedy.
Tonight, the alleged gunman in the White House Correspondents Association dinner appeared in federal court, with 31-year-old Cole Thomas Allen facing several charges, including attempting to assassinate the President of the United States, using a firearm during a crime of violence, and the transportation of a firearm and ammunition in interstate commerce, after officials say Allen, armed with a handgun, shotgun, and knives, charged through a security checkpoint at a WHCD dinner in D.C.
He ran through the magnetometer holding a long gun. As he did so, U.S. Secret Service personnel assigned to the checkpoint heard a loud gunshot.
One bullet striking a Secret Service agent with protective gear before being tackled to the ground, while President Trump, the First Lady, and top officials were rushed to safety.
This is the third major assassination attempt against President Trump in 2 years.
The suspected shooter is a teacher and amateur video game developer from California who reportedly opposed President Trump's policies. In a so-called manifesto shared with family, Allen allegedly wrote he could no longer allow a traitor to coat my hands with his crimes, describing himself as a friendly federal assassin.
Make no mistake, he says, I am targeting the administration officials. They are my targets, and I'm prioritizing from the top down, the highest ranking from the lowest.
Tonight, the DOJ is saying law enforcement did not fail as Chief of Staff Susie Wiles prepares to meet with White House operations and the Secret Service to discuss protocols and practices for major events involving President Trump in the wake of this incident.
It has been a while. I've been very busy with a lot of work, my real job, as well as some other issues that have come up. But it's good to be back, and I'm glad you're still tuning in. Hopefully you are. No doubt you have heard this past weekend at the White House Correspondents' Dinner, there was yet another assassination attempt. The cold open that I gave you from a news source was detailing that. And I'm going to break that down a little bit, but also try to give something else to take away, as I always do, to show you how I process these type of things and how we can put them practically maybe into our lives. Butler, Pennsylvania, where the guy, Crooks, tried to shoot Trump and hit his ear. And then you've got the guy, the lunatic at the golf course with the rifle gun that was sticking out that was caught by agents, and he was promptly arrested. Now, this makes number 3. However, as I did my research for this, as I always do, there's actually more than 3 since 2016. So if you take a look at this article, I will show you some clips right now. There's attempts going back all the way to basically when he declared to be president. These didn't get much coverage, go figure, but there were more attempts. So I'm going to show those here as we go through. And you'll notice there are ones from, maybe not as high profile as Butler. That's the most high profile because a shot actually hit him. But you've got other attempts, and it was foiled before it came to fruition. Janine Pirro there in that intro, that cold open, was talking about, he described himself as the friendly federal assassin. What could have happened had there been more of this lunatic? There could have been more assassins than just one who ran through the magnetometer, who got past security initially. What if there had been 10 guys running all at once, all armed with knives and guns like this guy? You don't think some of those people would have gotten into the actual ballroom and gotten shots off? What if they had dirty bombs? Why was the shooter tackled, not shot? There's no blood on him. How can you run through that, shoot at somebody, and you yourself not be shot or even any blood? I don't understand that. You're asking yourself, how much more of this crap are we going to put up with? If you're not angered by this, then you probably hate Trump. Or you're indifferent. You've gotten used to attempts on a president's life because there's been 3 in 2 years, the 3 most profile. Again, there were others before these 3. Leads me to the question of why. The intro cold open said possible motive. We know what the motive is. The motive was given from words, rhetoric we've heard over the years, these calls to violence. This Assassin's Manifesto was the same drivel that we have been hearing from 10 years from all kinds of sources. From online Reddit garbage to big outlets like CNN and MSNBC and ABC late night talk show hosts and cesspools like Blue Sky. We've been hearing it. You have to be ignorant to the news to not know how they talk about Trump these last 10 years. Barack Hussein Obama, the Black Messiah, nearly, I think, 12 hours after this happened saying, we don't know what happened. The manifesto was out. Can you just piss off enough, Obama? Why don't you go to one of your mansions, Hawaii or Martha's Vineyard, where your cook died mysteriously? Why don't you just go and do your thing, man? You're the most useless president I think we've ever had, and you still weigh in on stuff. You're as corrupt as they get. If you weren't a smooth talker, no one would like you. So just peddle your racism and telling black men how to vote for Kamala. Just peddle that crap somewhere else. So that leads us to, if the cause is words and rhetoric that we've heard, and I'm going to play you a clip here in a minute, and it's going to back up exactly what I'm saying. A montage is, does the First Amendment give all these people a right to do it? Jimmy Kimmel's comments, I don't know if you saw that before this event, making fun of Melania, the First Lady, which would never happen to Michelle. Big girl Michelle would never happen. Just to show you the cause of what words can do, let's look at a montage. And by the way, this is about 12 minutes, and I can't play it all. But here we go.
Some of their own words.
I just don't even know why there aren't uprisings all over the country. Maybe there will be.
There needs to be unrest in the streets for as long as there's unrest in our lives.
You got to be ready to throw a punch. You have to be ready to throw a punch.
Donald Trump, I think you need to go back and punch him in the face.
But I thought he should have punched him in the face.
I feel like punching him.
I'd like to take him behind the gym if I were in high school.
If we were in high school, I'd take him behind the gym and beat the hell out of him.
No, I wish we were in high school. I could take him behind the gym.
I will go and take Trump out tonight.
Did you hear that? That's what, 8, maybe 10 clips? And again, this is a 12-minute clip that I have that I cannot play the whole thing. So you're a fringe, lunatic, weak-minded, leftist progressive, which there are plenty of. You're a protester. You're a loser in life, and you hear this over and over and over again. So we wonder what the freaking motive is?
When was the last time an actor assassinated a president?
They're still going to have to go out and put a bullet in Donald Trump. Show me where.
Do you hear that? Johnny Depp, actor assassinated president. How was he not arrested or interrogated about that? Then you got a commentator talking about putting a bullet.
I have thought an awful lot about blowing up the White House.
Madonna blowing up the White House. Are you getting a picture now? I mean, what disingenuous reporters we have. And these people who are in the middle, undecided on where the violence is coming from. There is no question where all the violence is coming from. And you want to know why? Because of this, words.
This is just a warning to you Trumpers. Be careful. Walk lightly. And for those of you who are soldiers, make them pay.
If you had to be stuck in an elevator with either President Trump, Mike Pence, or Jeff Sessions, who would it be?
Does one of us have to come out alive?
We will fight when we must fight.
What kind of America are we fighting for? We've been fighting, so we need to fight, but we also need to fight. Fight for an America.
I am going to wake up
every day and fight hard. I have been fighting. We're going to fight. We are going to fight. We're going to fight. We're going to fight. And I will fight.
God, you cackling bitch.
Right now.
This fight. The strength of who we are is we will fight. And
Go
we
ahead,
will
you
fight.
ditzy
We
alcoholic.
will fight the fight. We will fight. We are in a fight. The fight. It is a fight.
Thank
It's a
God
fight,
she's not
and
president,
it
right?
is a fight born out of patriotism. This is a fight fighting.
I'm not necessarily against that fight because the people on the right use that terminology. But the point is you hear this rhetoric and you're unstable, and you've heard all the other rhetoric about death and killing and putting a bullet in the president and blowing up the White House, and then you hear fight, fight, fight. So then you get Antifa rallies, you get people beaten up because they're wearing a red MAGA hat. You get officers assaulted, some of them killed. How I'm viewing this, all of this information, these clips, everything. First thing, there's two things. First thing is incompetence. And we've seen it with the Butler, Pennsylvania shooting. How did the guy get on the roof? People were talking about it. He was actually found before and talked to. There's so much information they knew, and yet he still got up there and got a shot off. The Florida guy sneaking through with a rifle through the thing. How was this not barricaded? How was this? And then you have this. You have a guy running through security, ran right past him, no perimeter, no nothing. And the cops standing up against the wall. And, you know, President Trump praised them for their thing, but it should have never even got to that. You could have checked the hotel. You could have done scanners. You could have done everything to prevent people just running through from the hotel, wherever he came. Some people say he came down the stairwell. So incompetence seems to be just rampant in protecting the president. But this is a 30,000 foot view. So how I break down incompetence is there's two sides to it. The first side is that you try really, really hard to do anything. Support that you like, learning a new skill, learning how to cook something, learning how to make something. Maybe it's a hobby you try. And you put in the mind, the effort, the energy, but you just can't do it. That's most people when they think incompetent. Maybe they hire somebody and you think they can do the job and they can't. But they're trying. They're doing the best they can. They just can't do it. Right? And we just had the NFL draft this past weekend. Some of those people drafted, some of those guys will be deemed incompetent in the sense that they can't make it in the NFL, even though they got drafted. And that one doesn't bother me so much because you tried, it's rooted in reality. But the flip side to trying really hard and the other side of incompetence is that you're not trying at all. And what's worse, maybe you have the skill set or the knowledge, the ability to do it, and you're not. You're lazy, or something that is part of that type of not doing anything incompetence is you're just negligent. Negligence, this definition, you already saw the one for incompetent. Negligent describes the failing to exercise proper care, attention, or duty, often leading to harm or errors through carelessness or indifference. Leading to harm or errors through carelessness or indifference. I think that's a great way to put negligence, which is a form of this side of passive incompetence. And that's the type that makes my blood boil, especially if the task that I have given you or that someone gives someone is very simple and you don't do it or you don't care to do it. The more simple, frankly, the more outraged I get. Customer service people on the phone are some of the worst. Hey, let me give you my address. They don't do it. You repeat it. They can't get it right. It's just an address. Or how about failing to call me back or follow up with me when you should have? Simple. That's easy. Didn't do it. That kind of incompetence. Or me giving, let's say, precise instructions and you don't listen or don't do it the way I gave you, even though it's right there. All you got to do is follow the steps. Whether it's a contractor I hire or someone that's in my employ or it's somebody in customer service. You email someone and you give them a real good list. Here's 3 things I need to know or 3 things. Please get back to me in detail on these 3. And they get back to you on 1 or 2 of them. That kind of incompetence makes my blood boil because it's so careless and indifferent to being detailed and being to do a simple task. I'm not asking anything hard. And maybe some of you are the same way. Doing nothing or doing it with carelessness or indifference are usually done by very passive people, and America's full of passive versus the quote unquote aggressive types. I would like to say active, not aggressive. These are the people, this kind of incompetence, that give you the excuses. And I know you've heard of, well, that wasn't my responsibility. Well, I didn't really think about it. Well, I just didn't do it. I didn't have time or whatever. These passive types, incompetents, always have a ready-made excuse. And they like to throw it back on you. And good Lord, have I experienced this with old friends, certainly family, girls I've dated, this kind of negligent incompetence. A woman getting attacked on a subway, or someone says something in your presence that you don't like, and you say nothing, you do nothing. The passive, non-action type of incompetence, the negligence. You hold up a mirror in their face and say, why didn't you do this? Why did you do nothing? Say nothing. And they've got ready-made excuses, or they immediately dismiss it because that mirror is too blinding to look at. So that was incompetence. Now I want to move to the second way I've thought about this latest assassin, is the power of words. Let's look at a quick clip from Press Secretary Caroline Leavitt.
Nobody in recent years has faced more bullets and more violence than President Trump. This political violence stems from a systemic demonization of him and his supporters by commentators, yes, by elected members of the Democrat Party, and even some in the media. This hateful and constant and violent rhetoric directed at President Trump day after day after day for 11 years has helped to legitimize this violence and bring us to this dark moment. Those who constantly falsely label and slander the president as a fascist, as a threat to democracy, and compare him to Hitler to score political points are fueling this kind of violence.
Spot on. I mean, that's why she's one of the best ever to do her job. Hitler. What would you do to Hitler? You would assassinate him if you could. Fascist. I broke that down on an episode long ago, how that's the most ridiculous term for President Trump.
The left-wing cult of hatred against the president and all of those who support him and work for him has gotten multiple people hurt and killed, and it almost did so again this weekend. When you read the manifesto of this shooter, ask yourselves, how different is the rhetoric from this almost assassin than what you read on social media and hear in various forums every single day? The answer, if you're being honest with yourself, is that there is no difference at all. Much of the manifesto of the would-be assassin is indistinguishable from the words that we hear daily from so many.
Nailed it. Indistinguishable.
For example, as the First Lady of the United States pointed out this morning, just 2 days prior to the shooting, ABC's late-night host Jimmy Kimmel disgustingly called First Lady Melania Trump an expectant widow. Who in their right minds says a wife would be glowing over the potential murder of her beloved husband?
By the way, I didn't even show all the TikTok losers who are mad that the guy didn't get to Trump. So after that clip, coming back to words, this is the cause. To not see it otherwise for this assassin, for all the others, for all the hate, is the violent rhetoric. Over and over, like she said, she broke it down perfect. The sound reasonable people in this country should say enough is enough, and let the 20% of absolute mentally deranged people let punishment come their way, or just put a stop to it all. When we talk about words, I want to just quickly say, how do I view words? What are they, right? They're words on a page, but words spoken is really what I'm talking about. They're descriptive. They convey emotions. They convey ideas. They express beliefs. And they have power. That's what this second part is about. Incompetence first, and now the power of words. this biblical verse, which is so profound. It's Proverbs 18:21. And it says, life and death is in the power of the tongue, and those who love it eat its fruit. Let me read another one from Jesus himself. For by your words you will be acquitted, and by your words you will be condemned. Now, he was talking to a religious sect, but the principle does transfer to anyone. Words can instill life and all kinds of positive things, or words can bring death. You can be acquitted by your words spoken, or you can be condemned by them. If I had a son, he would look like Trayvon. All these cops are foolish, or whatever we called the guy at Harvard. People looking up to this guy. This is our guy, the Black Messiah. Of course you're going to be violent. And then you hear the anti-white rhetoric over years now. How evil people like me are because I'm straight white male, and Christian doesn't help either. Put all those together. You are the target. If you don't see that, you're blind, by the way. And you've got instance after instance of MAGA people being attacked, being jumped, being beat up. Savannah Hernandez, reporter who went to a No Kings protest and got beat up. I could do 5 days on the attacks, all coming from the same side. So this mystery of where is it coming from, or we need to just tone down the rhetoric, not on our side. We're not the ones committing crimes. And just to give you some quotes from some really smart people on the power of words. Words are, of course, the most powerful drug used by mankind. Rudyard Kipling. Words are loaded pistols. Jean-Paul Sartre, nihilistic philosopher. No matter what people tell you, words and ideas can change the world. Robin Williams. We are masters of unsaid words, but slaves of those we let slip out. Winston Churchill. Be sure to taste your words before you spit them out. Anonymous. So just like incompetence, which had a passive and an active side, you do everything you can, you fail, you just can't do it, you're incompetent, or the type that does nothing. And I call that incompetent negligence, or negligence is incompetent adjacent. Just like this with the power of words, there are two sides. It's pretty easy. Again, I think binary thinking helps all of us in the way we think. That's the way I think, and then you can break it down from there. But words are either positive or they're negative. Yeah, you could say the neutral, some are neutral, like that shoe is red. I'm not, obviously I'm not talking about descriptors, things like that. And the words, as Caroline Leavitt said, around the president these 11 years has been nothing but evil, demeaning, hateful, malevolent, and lies. Russia hoax, all the hoaxes, all the fake lawsuits that got dismissed, everything coming after him, trying to jail him for 700 years. That is truly evil. I would even say demonic. Because I do, as I said before, I do think at the root of everything is the spiritual reality. I know from having a mother who was a pro at speaking hateful speech and ripping you down with your words, how much that can impact you. I've done it to people and seen the effect on them. It's been done to me by other people. I'm sure it's been done to you, where somebody can rip you apart or really take a real shot at you that stings with their words. And that's the power of them, with words that are full of vitriol or malice. Clarification on that point is that just because words are truthful and maybe they can be said a little bit better, doesn't make them negative and evil and wicked. All right? It's called criticism. And on the other side, of course, are positive words. And there's power there, and yet I think people so often don't use it. You can edify, encourage, you can make somebody laugh, you can give joy, you can give hope, you can give community and bonds. Positive side of words is almost infinite, right? I mean, surely you know this. You've had someone say something to you and it was 10 years ago, it was 20 years ago, and you still can play it like a tape recorder. How impactful and awesome that was in your life. How it uplifts you to hear that played in your head. And the negative, the wicked side of the power of words can do the same thing unless you can get rid of those thoughts in your head. But the positive, and yet how often we hold those back and don't say them, which is, again, kind of an incompetence when you have a chance to speak up and say something and uplift somebody or defend somebody who can't defend for themselves. You verbally take their side, or someone you care about, and you actually take their side. And there's a point to this also. Not doing, again, you're seeing a theme with me, maybe perhaps even with incompetence, is what about words that you give that are half truths? Well, half a truth is half a lie, is it not? And I have found, especially in dating, how women withhold half of the truth. I find with passive people, with people that don't want that mirror, that do not want accountability, to give you half, because God forbid it make them look bad, because then they have to deal with it. If they verbalize it and say, yes, this is the whole truth, and part of it makes me look really bad, makes me show my actions in a bad way or a sin or whatever. Because then you have to admit it. That passivity can go away when you have to actually be active and proactive and give details and say, this is the whole truth. Man, have I experienced so much of that. People just giving me half-truths as if I'm too dumb to pick up on it, or I'm not going to keep asking questions. And the justification is always there of why they didn't tell me everything. I just find in my own experience how rare it is someone says, yeah, you know what, I didn't tell you that. I withheld that, and that was wrong. That was actually a lie because I didn't tell you the whole truth. What else is it when you get a half-truth? Well, in closing and to recap, the way I process this and why I try to take anything in life, even this assassination attempt, and make it make sense to me, and hopefully the way I think about and process helps you. And there were two big themes: incompetence and the power of words. Incompetence having two sides, right? There's a side that tries really hard and does everything they can. They just can't do the job. And there's the other side that does nothing or does it half-ass. And they're negligent and they're careless and they're indifferent. Then there's the power of words. Two sides to that. There's positive and there's negative. There's life that you can give and receive, and there's death that you can give and receive because of the words that you speak. How I process a lot of things in life is you start binary, two big categories, and then you can break it down from there. I hope that helps you. It really helps me. I don't care if it's in work, personal, relationships, if I can break it down that way. For the people that withhold words, truth, or negligent, incompetence, they don't do the job, they just do it halfway or don't do it at all. Really easier to do something, to say something and ask for forgiveness than to do nothing. Because when you do nothing, you feel responsible for what? Nothing. Be it family, friends, girls you've dated, boys you've dated. You see how that works? You don't do anything, so I'm not sorry for anything. Because the sins of omission are something that I found a lot of people don't even register with them. Hey, I didn't do something, as if that gets you a pass. Versus sins of commission, which is active, which is doing something, saying something, and being like, yeah, I shouldn't have done that or said that. But you weren't silent. You weren't passive. Two prayers from two traditions, which I am neither. I'm not an Episcopal and I'm not a Catholic. But the beauty in their liturgy is something that does draw me. So one is from the Great Confession, the Book of Common Prayer. I'm just going to read the first half, what I've just talked about, omission and commission, and just tell me how beautiful this is if more people just thought like this. Most merciful God, we confess that we have sinned against you in thought, word, and deed, by what we have done and by what we have left undone. But how beautiful is that? Thought, you sinned against thought, word, and deed, what you've done and what we have left undone. Omission. Now the Catholic one, I'll read the first half of that. I confess to Almighty God and to you, my brothers and sisters, that I have greatly sinned in my thoughts and in my words, in what I have done and what I have failed to do, through my fault, through my most grievous fault. Man, if more people thought like that. And if that's the first time you're hearing either the Episcopal prayer or the Catholic one, some people call it the Great Confession or the I Confess prayer. It's powerful, isn't it? And you don't have to be a Christian to go, yeah, that's pretty good. What I've done in my thoughts, deeds, and words, what I've done actively, and what I haven't done. And you take ownership and accountability. I think that as I've gotten older, I've noticed that the sins of omission committed against me are the ones that get my blood boiling the most, more than commission. It's the people who do know, I didn't even think, I didn't do these lame excuses that are given when people are called out. And I definitely am not a passive personality. I am active. I hate the word aggressive. When I say those things that we just read, those prayers, it's what I have done in thought, deed, and word that I have to ask for forgiveness for versus going, yeah, I didn't do that. That's it for today. I hope you enjoyed it. Thank you for tuning in the whole episode. I know this was a little bit longer, but it's been a while. And until next time, stay alert, stand firm, show courage, and be sound.